You are listening to the Coins, Currency, and American History podcast, presented by Littleton Coin Company.
Every great civilization leaves behind its ruins, its art, and its heroes. But the story of America can be told through something smaller, something we can hold in our hands. A coin. Coins are the fingerprints of a nation. This is the story of the United States of America. From colonies to social experiment to global economic leader.
Episode 22, The Gilded Age, when capital outgrew money. The end of Reconstruction left the future of the United States wide open. The Civil War had pulled the financial system together with national banks, bonds, and greenbacks. Once the fighting stopped and Reconstruction faded, that system ran headlong into something bigger: pure scale. Railroads pushed across mountains and prairies, factories rose in crowded cities, waves of immigrants supplied the labor, and capital began to move in ways no one had seen before. Historians would later call this period the Gilded Age. For the first time since independence, Americans stopped measuring themselves against Europe. They started competing with it. In the years before the Civil War, money moved at a slower pace. Local banks issued their own notes, credit stayed close to home, news traveled by boat or horseback. The amount of coin and paper in circulation pretty much set the limits on how much business could happen. After the war, the relationship flipped. Commerce started shaping money instead. National banknotes now traveled freely from region to region. Telegraph wires carried price information in minutes instead of weeks. Railroads hauled goods on a scale that felt almost unbelievable. Federal bonds tied Wall Street to the credit needs of the whole country. Capital markets took shape because the nation had finally grown large enough to support them. It was the kind of system Alexander Hamilton had once envisioned, but now it operated on a continental stage, powered by population growth, new technology, and unstoppable momentum. Industrial capitalism moved faster than politics could keep up. A handful of men who grasped the power of scale found themselves wielding influence that once belonged only to governments. Cornelius Vanderbilt pulled scattered rail lines into a unified network and changed how goods moved across the country. John D. Rockefeller built an empire by controlling refining and distribution so tightly that his operations set the pace for an entire industry. Andrew Carnegie turned steel into a modern marvel by bringing every step from ore to finished beam under one roof. J.P. Morgan stepped in as the great organizer of credit, stepping forward to steady markets when they threatened to spin out of control. And figures like Jay Gould and James Fisk showed how pure speculation could rattle public confidence in the financial system. Some people called them titans of industry, while others named them robber barons. But whatever the label, these men proved a single private enterprise could command more capital than many nations. They created wealth at a scale never seen before. During the Civil War, the nation had struggled with the painful shortage of money. But the Gilded Age had the opposite problem. Money now concentrated faster than anyone could easily measure. By the 1880s, men like Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan, Vanderbilt, and Gould held personal fortunes that dwarfed the total value of all the gold and silver coins the U.S. Mint had struck over decades. Those coins still circulated, of course. For some, cash would always be king. But the real measure of wealth had shifted to shares of stock, corporate bonds, and trusts, and control over factories, railroads, and resources. This changed how Americans thought about money itself. A fortune can now be counted in tons of steel produced, miles of tracks laid, or barrels of oil refined. Capital had become more abstract. It didn't need to sit in a vault to have power. But not for everyone. Inequality grew sharply during these years. While some amassed staggering sums of money, factory wages stayed modest, and city slums were hard to ignore. Strikes broke out over working conditions. At the same time, steel prices dropped, transportation costs fell, and consumer goods became more widely available. America was getting richer overall, but the gains landed unevenly. That remains one of the striking paradoxes of the Gilded Age. Growth and inequality walked hand in hand. The Constitution had been written with conflicts between states and the federal government in mind. Private wealth now rivaled public authority in ways the framers hadn't anticipated. The titans of industry rarely ran for office. They didn't need to. Their power came from control over entire systems. Raise freight rates on the rails, and factories across the country felt it. Control refining capacity in oil, and smaller competitors folded. Organize credit through a banking house, and markets listened. The final architecture built to win the Civil War now financed corporations larger than anything the founders could have imagined. By the late 1880s, no one doubted that industrial capitalism worked. The real debate centered on whether democracy and the American Republic could live comfortably alongside it. Farmers grumbled that high freight rates ate up their profits. Small refiners watched their businesses disappear. Labor unions formed and walked out over stagnant wages and dangerous conditions. Newspapers warned that great trusts were making decisions from boardrooms that properly belonged in the voting booth. And for the first time, many Americans argued that the market itself had become a political force. Government existed to balance competing interests, yet these new industrial combinations existed to consolidate them. In 1890, Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act. The law wasn't perfect, it didn't spell out exactly what counted as a monopoly, and it didn't break up the biggest trusts right away. But it marked the first serious attempt to bring national economic power under national legal oversight. The Sherman Act stood as recognition that capitalism had outgrown the old tools for managing it. The nation could no longer allow private actors to hold more sway than public institutions. By the close of the Gilded Age, the United States had crossed a quiet threshold. It was no longer a country that primarily produced money through coins and banks. It had become a country that produced money through markets and industry, and in doing so, created an economy capable of expanding on a scale that felt limitless. Fortunes were now measured in corporate capitalization. Wealth once tied to metal was increasingly tied to production and innovation. National strength, once judged by territory, was increasingly judged by industrial might. Right in the middle of all this sat some of the most iconic pieces of currency from the era: the Morgan silver dollar. The Coinage Act of 1873 had effectively demonetized silver. However, pressure from Western silver interests led to passage of the Bland-Allison Act of 1878. It required the U.S. Treasury to purchase $2 million to $4 million worth of silver from Western mines, not once, but each and every month. And from this, the Morgan dollar was born. Often nicknamed the King of America's coins, these big 90% silver coins are named for their designer, George T. Morgan. For the obverse, or head side, Morgan based his proud profile of liberty on Miss Anna Williams, a Philadelphia school teacher. For his reverse, he featured an American eagle clutching an olive branch and 3 arrows in its talons. Morgan silver dollars were produced at U.S. mints in Philadelphia, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Carson City. And today, they are among the most popular coins to collect, especially those bearing the CC mint mark of Carson City, which recall the rugged flavor of the Old West, and were often minted in smaller numbers. Many Morgan dollars circulated heavily in everyday commerce, while others rested in treasury vaults for years. That mix of history and availability makes the series one of the most popular among collectors, whether you're just starting out or hunting for key dates and mint marks. Alongside those silver dollars came another practical innovation that many collectors enjoy today: silver certificates. Issued starting in 1878, these notes let people deposit silver coin or bullion at the treasury and receive paper money in return, which was much easier to carry than heavy bags of silver dollars. The large-sized notes featured beautiful engravings and patriotic designs and circulated widely as everyday currency while still representing a direct claim on silver. In time, silver certificates were replaced by today's Federal Reserve notes, and most were exchanged for silver before redemption ended in 1964. However, they remain legal tender at face value, and many were set aside in private collections. For collectors, hunting a nice typeset of these certificates, especially the early series with their bold vignettes, offers a wonderful window into the monetary debates and the expanding paper economy of the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age rewrote the arithmetic of American power. It made the country richer through concentrated capital and rapid innovation. And while it caused greater inequality of wealth among the masses, this resulted in the federal government's first serious steps to regulate the economic order it helped create. The Sherman Antitrust Act signaled that private wealth and public authority would now have to negotiate the nation's future. And that negotiation was just beginning. It would shape the century ahead. Next time, as industry grew larger, so did the organizations representing workers. The next great tension would play out between capital and labor, in mines, on railroads, and inside factories, as the value of a day's work found its place on the national balance sheet. Next time on Coins, Currency, and American History, the Spanish-American War and America's rise to world power. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Coins, Currency, and American History podcast presented by Littleton Coin Company. You can find out more about coins and currency in our free Learn Center at www.littletoncoin.com/learn. It's filled with fascinating facts about U.S. coins, world coins, ancient coins, paper money, and more, as well as helpful tips for collectors of all levels. You'll even find free collector guides, checklists, and virtual albums to help you get started and keep track of your growing collection. And while you're there, be sure to check out our online store. Visit www.littletoncoin.com today.